Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Woman on TV.tv, Worldwide TV Network, I2247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. So show number 2, it is August 24th. I shouldn't have dated it, but that's okay because here we're just rolling with it. April, are you laughing at me? Wait a minute, what? So anyhow, I've been looking forward to the show because Tony is here. He will tell you who he is and what he's doing in a little bit, but Roberto, we got to start with you because he's our male co-host for Movie Reviews and More. Roberto, go ahead.
Okay, Roberto Delanese. I am the author of the Delanese Method, a practical guide for success, prosperity, and abundance. This is a proven method for you to live and achieve your main goals and your main dream of life.
And next to him, the superstar. Okay, so this is interesting. She flew all the way in from Texas. Her stature is growing minute by minute now because she's getting more and more interesting. Who would have known? So, Angelica, who are you and where are you coming from and why are you here?
Okay, so thank you for the introduction. Angelica Robles, born and raised in Chicago, coming from Houston, Texas. I wrote a book called Through These Brown Eyes, and it's the story of my life to being an undercover surveillance agent for the government and all the trauma that comes with that. So I'm here to make it into a film. So, yay!
And Tony, let's talk about you because you've got an interesting background, award winner, director, filmmaker, producer. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Tony Estrada. I'm a director-producer. My most recent short film, Viva la Revolucion, is currently playing at schools across the country where we do not only show the film, but also do a 45-minute talk, youth empowerment talk, and anti-bullying talk to kids. On top of that, I'm currently in the process I'm in pre-production of a pilot with 2 writers that will be shooting in October. And I'm very similar to Angelica here, doing my first triathlon coming up this weekend. So
Nice.
very excited. Yeah.
That's really, really good. April.
Hi, April Monet, publicist for professional athletes and entertainers. Also do PR over at, well, right here actually, where we are at the Mike House Studios here in Hollywood. So happy to be here again.
Exactly.
I'm 2 for 2 today, Brian.
Keep it up, you'll be 3 for 3. Nonstop.
Hi, it's Nonstop Terri Marie, and I am here today, and I'm glad to be here as Brian's co-host as usual. So he's going to make fun of me again today. It's an ongoing thing, but I know he loves me anyway, right, Brian?
No.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
No. All right, so the fun thing about these shows is I like to mix and match people just to see what's going on with stuff. So even Carl is here. So we couldn't have done a lot of stuff without Carl.
Oh, we probably
Sorry,
could
April.
have, but you know.
Yeah, see, yeah, that's a good thing. Wait till he doesn't get a mic. He's gonna get one. But here's the funny thing about this. Let's talk about authors. Why is important? I love Hasmark. I love what they do out of there. Roberto, let's talk about your AR because people need to know about this. A lot of people don't know that AR is, Hasmark is the only publishing company in the world that has that comes out of that book. That's important. And for Tony, for your future stuff, you never know what you're going to pick up or develop when it comes to authors and books, so it might be interesting to you.
Yes, okay. I wrote the book and I published it through Hasmark, and Hasmark is the only company that has the AR, is the augmented reality. So you see always a symbol on the front page, and inside the book there is a mark that when you scan with an app, you read the book outside the book. So you can have like a text that you read, you can go to a website. In my case, I'm going to be talking to you. I have like a different text that's going to add to the movie, to the book.
See, he's thinking about his future movie.
Think about the movie already.
Yes.
So you didn't slip. You were thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, yes. And some people, they have like, when they have like movies or everything it relate to fiction, they can have like a special character that is going to come out the book in the app, and they can hear that sound or what they say or the color. So it is a fun thing to have. And right now Hasmark has the license for all over the world. So it is a very differential thing for your book to have it. So
What's happened after the 100 days? The last time you were here, you were in the 100 days and then the audiobook?
Yes, we are now almost like 5 months, 6 months, almost between 5 and 6 months from launch of the book. And a lot of people, I know a lot of people in Latin America. I'm from Brazil, so I work in Latin for a few years. So I know a lot of people there, and everyone was asking for the book in Spanish or Portuguese. So I'm in the process of translating the book to Spanish and Portuguese. Translation is almost done, so in the next 60 days we should be launching the book in Spanish and in Portuguese. And in English, we have the book already launched, and we are launching the next probably 3 to 4 weeks the audiobook. So
And where can people buy your book at? Where is it? Is this on
Is in-
streaming platforms, Amazon,
It's
Barnes
in
and
the
Nobles?
Amazon.com. Yes. So I'm
Nice.
selling, focusing in Amazon. The audiobook, no, it goes in Apple, in Spotify. So there's a lot of different platforms. But the book, if you want to buy the ebook and the paper book, right, you basically are going to buy in Amazon.com. And the Spanish and Portuguese will be the same. And so I will try between now and December to have the book in English, Spanish, and Portuguese as a paperback, as an ebook, and an audiobook. So it's a lot of work that I'm doing right now in order to launch those 3 languages in the 3 formats. Right? So, but it's doing very well. So I do like the feedback. So a few people that you never expect, like write back to you or send some notes for you. That is after 5 months, so you don't expect a lot of feedback. And I do have a few feedbacks of people that did something that they didn't think they could do it, basically using the techniques and the principles listed in the book. So that is very rewarding personally, right? That you say, wow, at least they helped somebody somewhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is fun. It's an amazing journey. So I thanks Hasmark because I was never a writer before, so I come from big corporations, just working as in technical jobs, supply chain, technology stuff, right? So suddenly you write your first book, so not too many people will take you seriously and publish your book. So Hasmark took the chances and invested on me, and they published the book. And I'm very glad to Judy and Dave, everybody else in the...
They don't take
In
you
the
seriously
organization.
until they find out that you're an international best-selling author.
Yes, and then...
Then it changes, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, and that was the goal, right? So that was one of my goals, and even the funny thing is that I wrote in the book, when I was writing the book, you can read in the middle here, that I said, I'm going to launch this book and it will be an international bestseller. And I said, I have to put my reputation on the line, because if it doesn't happen, they're going to say, how are you going to teach people how to achieve their goals if you don't achieve yours, right?
Right.
How long did it
Accountability.
take you to write the book from start to finish?
About 3 months.
About 3 months?
Yeah, 3 months, more or less, yes. I start like in May, more or less, and by August was basically done. And I didn't do... Some people do the route that you have a publisher, you work with the publisher, and you start writing, and you have all those, I think you mentioned things like this, and you just go with the people, right? I decided to write the book, and I wrote the book, and when I finished the book, that I said, what do I do with this? Now I have a lot of papers, okay? And I didn't know even where to go, okay? That I need a cover, I need like an editor, I need to publish. So it was after I wrote it that I started looking for this. And so Hasmark was a good help for me. So it's an amazing company. So
Tony, let's talk about how you started. You have an interesting story, but also I like that short film. I think it's very, very important. Talk about the name of that, why it came about, and the music in it.
Sure. So the short film's called Viva la Revolucion. It's about a little kid who learns about the Cuban Revolution. He decides to start a revolution against the kids that are bullying him. And in the process, he ends up becoming the bully himself. So, when I first started out with it, it was a very ego-based project of how does this make me better? How does this get me to the next step? How does this get me to my goals? But as soon as I started bringing more people on board, as soon as colleagues and friends that I've known for a long time started to share their stories of bullying with me, I started to understand that this wasn't about me anymore. This had a much greater mission and a much greater purpose to serve. And that's when it started to take off. And now, I would have never foreseen the things that would happen with it. I would not have seen myself going to schools to talk to kids about it. In different states, I wouldn't have seen myself talking to 1,000 kids, helping them feel empowered and learn new ways to deal with not only bullying, but how to learn ways to love themselves more. And now it's getting turned into a children's book series and also into a TV show. So it's like all these things I would have never have seen coming. But I think most importantly for me, this just goes to show the power of mission and intention.
Yeah.
Because had I stayed on that really ego-driven path, I think it would have just died and lived its short life that it had and played the festivals as well as it did. But then what else would have happened with it? And so I'm really happy to be sitting here today and be able to talk about this way now.
What people don't realize when it comes to film festivals, lots of films are submitted. I know what it's like to filter through those thousands of films. And sometimes there's a great film there that just doesn't get picked up. And you can have a committee at 10, Hollywood Film Festival, Lloyd International Film Festival, and Swift, Southern Women in Film Festival in Tennessee. We had a panel of 10, 15, sometimes 7 people, and we would fight to get those films in. Like, they would be fighting over your film because they might not think it's strong enough, but it's about the message. It's about what it will do, because anti-bullying, almost everybody's been bullied one way or another, whether they acknowledge it or not, and that's what your message is. Talk about the experience of the little boys there when you went to go screen it. Wasn't it Chicago?
Yeah, in Chicago.
Chicago.
Yes.
Chicago.
Yes.
We had 2 Chicago people here, so talk about that experience.
Yeah,
because we got a lot of violence there.
Yeah, so a big part of what sort of influenced it for me was, I mean, we can turn on the news anytime we want and just start seeing bullying from adults doing it to each other. And I was like, how do we send that message to kids, though? Of how do we not become what we're seeing on the news? How, regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, how do we create a way for kids and parents to talk about hard things with each other? And this served as that sort of pipeline. And as Brian was alluding to right now, when we took this to actually, when we started here in LA, there's an experience with a little girl. She's a 4th grader. And, towards the end of the presentation, I asked a kid in the assembly, if you have been bullied, if you've experienced bullying, would you mind sharing your story in front of the whole school? And this little girl raised her hand. She came up, and I said, would you mind telling me about what happened to you? And she said, I really like who I am a lot. I like to be silly, I like to laugh, I like to dance, and I like to sing. But people make fun of me for dancing and singing. And it really hurts my feelings a lot. And there's just certain times when I don't want to show up to school, when I don't want to be here. When I don't want to be here, I think when you hear that subtext of that, she may not know what she said. I knew exactly what she was saying. And it was at that moment where I just said to her, where I said to the school, when you see Isabella by herself, if you see her alone, if you see her sitting alone eating lunch, who would be willing to be her friend and stand by her? And it was incredible because the whole school raised their hand. And in that moment, she just said and screamed out loud, my name is Isabella. And it was that reclamation of this little 4th grader. You think, oh, this only happens to adults, of feeling lost, of feeling dejected, of feeling so alone. But to have a little girl stand up and just reclaim her power like that was just such a moving event. And that was event number 1. So.
Wow. What people don't realize, I mean, I was bullied horribly all through high school and in middle school. And like some of the kids even bullied me, like because I was a cheerleader, so these girls would come and they would throw ice at me. So like, I was doing things. I know some of these girls were jealous of me now later in life, but it still doesn't mean that like I went home and I cried. Then when I was even younger, I got made fun of because I had braces. I was too skinny. But this stuff carries on to your adult life. So I think that, like some of the reasons I've held back, I mean, I don't learn to love myself, but held back in my life is because of stuff that happened in my childhood, because it was trauma. I mean, when these kids, and sometimes the adults don't even realize what these other kids do in shaping who you are when you grow up. 1,000%.
Yeah. And that was a big reason why I wanted to go to Chicago in particular. I wanted to go to underserved communities, particularly within the Latino population, because that's a personal mission for myself. But as I started to dig deeper into the statistics, into the data behind crime, behind drug abuse, behind alcoholism, specifically in low-income areas, so much of it started to come back to bullying and to childhood trauma. And that's when I was like, I need to go to Chicago and I need to make it happen there, because, I think a good majority of us know that Chicago deals with gang and criminal activity at some of the highest rates in the country. So also having gone to school in the Midwest, it was a big connection for me there too, to help bring back a little bit of a place that gave me so much.
I really liked too what you said about having, the school raise their hands to help her, because that's just brought her self-esteem back.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times these kids, there's other things going on with that kid
100%.
where they've got their own trauma, so they're taking it out on another kid, and you don't really know the whole story. So it's more of kind of like opening up that kind of to understandings that may be taught when they're younger.
Absolutely. And a principal philosophy that I have when I talk to teachers and parents is, if you want a kid to meet you down here, just talk to them that way.
Mm-hmm.
If you want them to show you what they really know, talk to them this way. And that's how we do it. That's how we talk to kids. We talk to them as if I was sitting around, they were sitting in these chairs here, and I trusted them with the amount of intelligence and emotional compatibility that you guys all have. And in that, they always rise to the occasion to say, not only that, but to teach me a ton about bullying. When I ask them, how does bullying happen? Almost all of them will give me a different answer that is deeply profound and that will show me so much more of what I don't know. And again, that's just because I treat them with the respect and the humanity that they deserve instead of saying I'm higher than you because I'm an adult.
So Angelica, talk about you growing up in Chicago and what you can talk about where
Yeah.
you are today, right?
I was like, please pick me, pick me, pick me. I was like, oh my God, I want to talk. Okay, so I grew up in an underserved community. I grew up in Cicero. So people that know, Al Capone inhabited Cicero. And so Cicero is a, gang-related, gang activity. I grew up in probably the roughest Mexican neighborhood in Chicago. So my friends were being murdered. We were cleaning up blood in our front steps growing up. And so what I want to share is, as a child dealing with bullying, I was never bullied, but I had a lot of friends that were. But what I wanted to share is our parents were working. We were latched kids. So we had to feed ourselves. And sometimes school was like our saving grace because we didn't have parents at home. And so if you go to school to get fed because you're not being fed at home because your parents are too busy working, or some of us have to take care of younger siblings, and then you go to school and you're dealing with this stuff, it's like adding more to the problem. And so not only are you going to school to eat, but now you're going to school to try to survive. And so you're trying to survive at home, and then you're trying to survive at school. It's like, what's left, right? So you become this minute piece of a person, and it just breaks down your soul. So anyway, so a little story about why I wrote the book. So when I was 15, I had a high school sweetheart. His sister was hanging around with the wrong crowd and was murdered, dismembered, and decapitated because she was a drug dealer at the time. And so I grew up with a lot of anger, and I grew up with just a lot of angst, and I internalized it. And so whenever I went to college, I had just all these emotions because a lot of people, especially in Mexican or Hispanic cultures, you don't talk about your feelings. You internalize a lot. So to have somebody come in and say, hey, it's okay to talk about what's going on, it's okay to share your emotions is really mind-blowing, because especially in our community and in like colored communities, you just don't talk about it.
100%.
Because and I always
It's
like
looked at as
to
a weakness.
yeah, exactly. And this is what I like to say, because I've heard this and I read this in a book. Especially in the Hispanic culture and even in the colored communities, they say about boys that men or boys are taught to be physically strong and emotionally weak. Like, you don't share your emotions. And so whenever they grow up into adulthood, like then it all comes out in that form. But it's really that little kid inside you that's like screaming for help.
Yeah.
So so in my perspective, I felt like writing the book was almost like a full fruition of me being able to just everything that I had dealt with trauma and with my job. And this is what I tell people. I feel that childhood experiences mold you as an individual, and in turn causes you to choose your path in life. Because I wouldn't have gone to work for the government if I didn't deal with this experience in my childhood. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And so a good journey when it comes to things like that is also yours, April, because like I said, you have an interesting show of the things, where you come to. And I couldn't be more happy to know you as a friend. I know you work your butt off doing the stuff that you do. And I think it's great of what you've created so far. And I can't wait to see your future book also. That'll be interesting. Talk about how you started and where you are for Tony.
Yeah, so, I am working on a book. It's in progress right now about kind of my life and where I started and how I
We have
ended
a
up.
publisher for you.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I'm ready. And how I got to where I am today and things that I've been through and I have some unique experiences. But to kind of go along with the bullying aspect, yes, I am multiracial. However, my mother is predominantly white, and when her and my father split, I was raised in a predominantly white community in a very small school. There was only probably a couple of other families of color even in the neighborhood. So I experienced a lot of bullying, racism, bigotry, and it's really, it's funny because as a kid, as you get older, when you look back at kids, you're like, how do kids even know how to be like that, And they have to have seen it somewhere. They had to have been taught, seen it somewhere. And I can remember one experience in particular. I was an athlete. I played basketball in school, and I was in I believe it was 4th grade, and I was playing in a basketball league, a recreational basketball league that we had at the school, and my uncle was actually one of the coaches. And when you are on a team, you guys are in the huddle, you put your hands in, everybody break. So we go to put our hands in. If I put my hands in the huddle, the other girls would not. They would not. If they were touching me, they'd pull their hand away, or they would hover it over my hand to make sure that they didn't touch me. Just whatever they did, not to touch me. And one girl actually admitted it was because her skin's different color. I don't want to touch that. And that was, I can't even put into words like how that made me feel as a child, but that's a different kind of hurt and a different kind of trauma and a different type of feeling. Like I said, my uncle was there, he was the coach, and he ended up talking to everybody, and he pretty much deaded that situation. Like, if we can't come together as a team and be teammates and be a team and everybody, together as a family, then you don't need to be on this team. And it actually, what's funny is the season went on, and that girl ended up becoming one of my friends later on in school and in high school, and we were actually, pretty good friends. But I experienced different situations like that, and I think it helped to shape how I treat other people, and me as my personality, and getting older, and just helping to understand different things and have a different outlook on situations in life sometimes.
Tony, that little boy in you, before you wanted to be a filmmaker, why did you want to be a filmmaker, and what was it that made you become that? Because you have a great biography of where you are to where you're going.
Because professional baseball didn't work out, so this was my fallback. But in all seriousness, I played baseball in college. I was on that path to go play in Mexico, to play independently, all that stuff. But I just kind of reached a point where I was just tired. I didn't want to do it anymore. And I also realized I was doing it for anybody else but myself. And when you stop doing that, that's when it's time to hang it up. So when I went to Michigan, I thought I was going to go be in the CIA. So I went to business school for about a week. Realized that, again, the math classes just weren't going to work out for me. Then I took Arabic because I was like, that's another way to get into the CIA. Took a semester of that, got a B-, and I was like, that's not going to happen either.
That's not bad, though. It's hard.
I'll
I'm trying to learn it. It's horrible.
I'll attribute that a lot to my good friend Melissa, who helped me out a ton. So, yeah, and then about my junior year, I needed to declare something. I stumbled into a classical film theory class, was bored to tears every single class I was there, but there was just something I couldn't get enough of when I was there. And I remember my first day of class, the teacher asked us, name your name and your favorite movie. And all the kids are very artistic and trying to prove how much they're into film. They're naming all these films from 1930s Japan and in France in the 40s and all this stuff. And I'm like, what the hell? I've never heard of any of these movies.
Batman?
I could school you on what films there were.
They come to me and I go, hi, my name's Tony, and my favorite movie is Ocean's 11 and Rocky 4. and everyone just starts busting up laughing. And I literally go, I don't understand what's funny about this. And my teacher goes, that's incredible. Let's talk after class. And so that kind of shut everybody up because all of a sudden he saw that I had something inside of me that wasn't thinking the way everyone else was. And, I finished that class, but then I got into the introduction to film after that. And that professor there sort of just blew me away. And that's kind of how my journey all started. When I came back to LA after graduating, I was a high school teacher. I started the film program at the high school I attended.
Nice.
About halfway through, I got offered an internship at MGM. So I was there for 3 months. One of the days that I wasn't supposed to be there, I just happened to be there because we were on Easter break. One of the executives comes in and goes, "Mother effer, I just got a ticket." And my father, who used to be an LA County sheriff, which I have a lot of stories to share about East LA with you. I asked him, I was like, "Is there any way that you may be able to help him out?" My dad, through all legal means, was able to help him out. But in that day, he said, the executive said to me, you are the one intern that stood out in the entire internship program. I want to help you out. Are you looking for a job? And I was still teaching. And I said, yes, absolutely. So he goes, great. Here's my friend's number. Call him today and see what you guys can set up. So I call his friend that day. He says, great. I can interview at 4:30 today in Santa Monica. I had a flight in Long Beach at 6:30 to go to the Final Four to go see Michigan play.
Oh, wow.
I called my parents and I said, I have this interview at 4:30, but my flight leaves at 6:30 out of Long Beach. And my parents said, do you really want this, yes or no?
Right.
And I said, yes. They go, then you know the answer. We don't have to tell you. So I call him. I show up for the interview. He goes, I know you got to get out of here. Got it in 15 minutes. Made it called the school on the way. Said, I'm sorry, I'm not coming in on Monday. I got a new job. And then from there, it just kind of all started. And I worked for a director by the name of Lee Tolan Krieger after that, who I'm still really good friends with. And I just started doing my own thing after that. And that's all how it all emerged.
Talk about what it's like to shoot in COVID these days. And can you talk about your new pilot series?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So the pilot's called Classified. It's about a woman who actually fell out of the CIA's good graces and is trying to get...
God, are we talking about Angelica?
Again, I was like, I have so much to talk to you about.
The stars have aligned, guys.
She's fallen out of the CIA's good graces and is trying to work her way back, but she's at this like second-rate intelligence agency that's full of buffoons. So think kind of like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but in the CIA. So, when it comes to COVID, a big part of this has been, how do we figure out the zone structure? What are the SAG regulations we need to follow? All this stuff. So, this is going to be my first big shoot that I've done during COVID. Thankfully, I have a lot of colleagues and friends who have done this a number of times to run me through the gambit. But yeah, it obviously presents a whole new set of challenges that I'm excited for. We'll be starting October 13th as of right now.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited
You
about
know
it.
where the studio is now.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
for sure.
In between, you can come and fill us in on things.
Definitely, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite movies?
Favorite movies?
Yeah.
Oh, Singing in the Rain.
Ooh,
Almost.
that's one of mine too.
I think you see my poster too, which is awesome. Singing in the Rain, Goodfellas, Forrest Gump. Those are the top three.
Angelica?
Silence of the Lambs.
Oh,
Of course.
And if you guys seen my book cover, it's out there in IG World. The book cover was actually an inspiration from Silence of the Lambs.
Very cool.
And let's see, Punch Drunk Love.
Ooh, interesting.
I love that movie.
Why?
And Magnolias. Yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson. Interesting. Boy, he would love you.
That's what they all say.
Funny because Science in the Lambs is probably my number one. I really love
Yes.
that movie. Yeah, yes. I love Rockies too and Toy Story. I love Toy Story. Oh, there's many more.
Wait a minute. Are you getting ready to say something?
me?
Yeah.
Well, I just was thinking.
That was the problem.
I'm just listening and thinking. That's all.
Oh, well, since you were thinking out loud, what are your movies?
Oh, well, I've got so many movies that I love.
Give me three.
Okay, well, I like comedies and I like horror movies, but some of my favorite comedies, are probably old school Tommy Boy. I love those. And
Those are great
Goldfinger.
collection.
And
I love that.
Goldfinger,
Yeah.
I just love like Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy. Those old movies I love, and old school is like and Tommy Boy because I've been in sales my whole life, so
Yeah.
like I can totally relate to Tommy Boy. So.
So that the best line in Tommy Boy, out, that's gonna leave a mark.
No, short guy, little jacket. Short guy, little jacket.
April, yours.
Fat guy and a little
Yeah. But
I love it.
April, your movies.
Let's see. I'm gonna throw in a little culture. I was gonna say Harlem Nights.
Nice.
Yes.
Is one.
It's a great one.
Then I'm gonna go the other side of the spectrum. Fried green tomatoes.
Yes.
Love
I
fried
love
green
that.
tomatoes. And then I'm gonna. There's two. I can't decide on the third one because you only gave me three.
Oh, you
But
can
I
have
love-
4 because you're April.
Even so, with fried green tomatoes. So I actually love Jessica Tandy. I think she's
Yeah.
an amazing actress. So I love Driving Miss Daisy.
Nice.
But then there's an actual recent movie that came out a few years ago that's not like a big blockbuster. It's actually got actors in it that are the R&B artists, but it's a sleeper. But I'm telling you, it's a good movie. It's called Blood Brother
Yes.
with Trey Songz,
Yes.
and it is. I love. I tell everybody that I meet, I'm like, "Have you watched Blood Brother? Because
Yeah.
you gotta watch Blood Brother."
Oh, that's awesome.
A lot of eye candy.
We got about 5 minutes left. So here's a couple movies I don't think because this is what people don't understand. When you're working a lot, you don't have a lot of time to watch films, even though you've got into that film-loving world of things. But this is where we're in Emmy season now, so it's one of those things where I'm watching on Epix through my Amazon Prime, and Trixie turned me onto this. It's The Godfather of Harlem. Forrest
Yes.
Whitaker.
Oh, I need to
What
watch
a
that.
great series that is. If you ever get a chance in between
I wish
your
they'd bring
stuff.
it back.
Well, they have. Well, because now they have episode 9 on it in the second season. So they kept shooting it more and more and more. And then obviously the War of the Worlds, same one on Epix, which is they've got some great stuff. And then The Condor. You would really love The Condor, and you would too. It's based on 3 Days of the Condor. But it's just the writing is brilliant, and like nobody watches Epix because there's all these formats out there, and you can't possibly watch everything.
Right.
And I've always said this, and I still do it to the day I die. These people in film, there's no way that they're watching all these things when it comes to voting. I can barely keep up. I know they're not doing this. And I asked Jamie Foxx one day, Jamie, you're not watching this stuff. I do my best, man. I'm like, stop lying. You're not watching anything. You don't have the time.
Yeah.
You just don't. But the one person I did acknowledge who did watch everything, she did her best, was Jane Fonda. She goes, I do my best to watch everything. This is what we're supposed to do as actresses and producers in our field. We're supposed to keep up with these things. And I always admired her to this day from that.
Awesome.
Roberto, give your social media links.
Okay, Roberto Delanese can be Instagram and Facebook, and also our website, www.robertodelanese.com.
Angelica.
So Instagram, Angelica Robles 28. That'll connect you everywhere. And then also my website where you can get my pre-sale book on there. It's just angelicaroblesofficial.com.
Oh, we got to thank Hashmark, because 2 publishing authors over there from the same company, which is what I like.
Yes.
With a third on the way.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
Tony?
Mine is at official Tony Estrada through all social media channels, including TikTok, which is brand new for me. So
That's my form.
getting down with the
Well,
kids.
let me ask you that. What do you like about TikTok? How important is that as a filmmaker these days?
I think the most important thing is truthfully being able to tell a very concise, impactful story in 45 seconds, because that seems to be the standard of like most viewed videos. So concise, impactful stories in that short time.
April?
My Instagram is THE April Monet MONET, and you can find everything else on there.
Terri?
My website is terrymarieofficial.com. My social media platforms is Terri Marie Nonstop on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
All right, I love this show. So, as I always say, I'm Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More. If you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours, and please check out our shows. And I never say this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and everybody else's. Follow them. Follow them, follow them. We will see you next week.